Hi everyone, hope you're doing well from wherever you're watching this channel, depending on your time zone. Now today, we have the National Prayer Breakfast taking place at Safari Park Hotel in Nairobi. And in such an event, this is the time when the government normally come together, whereby we have the National Assembly, we have the Senate, we have the Executive, we have the Judiciary, including other invited guests into such an event. So it is time to reflect on the country's progress, the failures, and everything as we move forward. In this prayer breakfast, of course, you will need religious leaders to come in and give the message and lead in the prayer. And so there was one pastor who was invited to address this audience. There is one critical message that the pastor told William Ruto, the Kithure Kindiki and their government, which really has angered William Ruto. If you look at William Ruto's face, you see anger. You see disappointment. You see panic when the man of God has been telling the truth on his face. Now here is the pastor's position. In fact, we're speaking about Gen Zs. Gen Zs are not children. Gen Zs are adults. Respect them. That is his message to this government. This government has treated Gen Z as children. Whenever they speak, whenever they act, whenever they protest, they see them like children. But these are graduates ready for the market. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have entrepreneurs, we have managers, we have engineers. They are graduates. Some just finished high school education. They're in college. Some are waiting to join college. So these are adults. But the government has been treating them differently. His message is respect Gen Zs. He has asked this government during this prayer breakfast to apologize to the arrested Gen Zs. So you called for the prayer. We are now in the prayer. Apologize to the Gen Zs that you arrested. What about those who are abducted? What about those who are kidnapped? What about those whose their body was discovered lifeless? It's a message is giving to this government. You shut down internet for Gen Zs. Apologize. You don't listen to them. It is time to apologize. That is the message on this prayer breakfast day. A true servant of God, fearless, and with a warning to the regime.
What about your Gen G? How do you build the bridge? You know, I have children. I have 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. What's fortunate is my 1 girl can beat up all of her brothers, but I have 5 children. And I remember last year coming to the prayer breakfast. And when my brother Earl and I got back home, we saw the Gen Z's frustration. And Earl asked, Rick, what do you think the problem is? What Gen Z is dying, and I'm talking because I have Gen Zs. They're dying to be loved. They're dying for a seat at the table. They're dying to be respected. And I won't ever forget when my boys were growing up, because sometimes as parents, we want our children to stay children all of their lives. But that's not the case with Gen Zers. Gen Zers have grown up, they've gone to college. Some of our Gen Zers are smarter than we are. I have a daughter, she's a doctor. Whenever I need advice on my health, I don't go to a hospital, I call my daughter. Whenever I want to invest my money, I don't go in and go to a bank. I call my son Caleb. When I need counseling and when I need therapy, no, I don't go to a psychologist. I go to my son Micah. Because all of my children have grown up. And they're no longer children. They're adults. And I had to learn to treat them like adults. And so when they graduated from college, I took each of them out to dinner. And I gave them a kiss. And I said, you are now an adult. I expect you to make decisions like an adult. I don't have to go and live anywhere in your neighborhood. None of my kids live within 1,000 miles of where I live. But they all act like adults. And one of the most frustrating things that could happen to a Gen Zer is that you keep treating them like a child. And I got to tell you, I started praying for Kenya because, I work with young people. I mentor young people. I understand a little bit about their minds. And one of the things I prayed for is I said, here's my prayer. I said, Lord, I pray the adults would apologize to our Gen Zers. I pray, see, it's like African Americans. We live in America, but a lot of times we don't feel respected. And people ask, why is there always a race issue in America? I can tell you why. Because no one's ever apologized. No one's ever said, I'm sorry for the horrific pain that you experienced. They've never done it in our history in this country. And I just want to suggest to you, when we're talking about relationships and we're talking about really rebuilding relationships, wouldn't it be beautiful if leaders would stand up and say to our Gen Zs, we had you arrested. And we know that had to be traumatizing. And we're sorry. We shut down the internet. And we know that that's your primary source of communication. And we're sorry. Now we want to bring you to the table so that you can have a voice, because you're no longer a child. You're an adult. And we want to begin to say, how do we begin to treat you like an adult? I won't ever forget the time, and I'm almost done. I won't ever forget the time when a guy gave me permission to be an adult. I was in the NFL, my first year in the NFL. We had a coach he was a German guy by the name of Marty Schottenheimer. And when I got to Cleveland, I would go in, and when I would see the head coach, Marty Schottenheimer, I would say, hey, how are you doing, Coach Schottenheimer? And he looked back at me and he said, I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Player Bolden? And the next day I would see him and I said, well, Coach Schottenheimer. And he would say, okay, Player Bolden. And after about a week, I went to him and I said, why do you keep calling me Player Bolden? He said, Ricky, you're an adult now. You don't have to call me Mr. Schottenheimer. You don't have to call me Coach Schottenheimer. You can refer to me as Marty. That's my name. You are a man now. I expect you to act like a man. And that's what our Gen Zers are crying for. They're crying for the right to be adults, because they are. They've gone to college. They've buying their own house. They're getting married. They're adults. And I want to encourage you even here today, Kenya. I challenge you that when we start talking about rebuilding relationships, then the question is, how do we begin to rebuild the relationships with our Gen Zers? Because they love you, they care for you, they respect you. but they don't feel respected.
Now, I want us to conclude this discussion, but I have a quick and humble request for those who are watching this channel and you have not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. To our returning subscribers, I must say thank you so much. And to all our viewers, please give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much, and back to our discussion. Now, I think this is not what the leaders expected for during the prayer breakfast. Say this ukienda Tanzania utasikia vile they are attacking Gen Zs. Kenyan Gen Zs. I'm happy the Tanzanian members of parliament were invited to this prayer breakfast. They were there. And they got the message. Respect Gen Zs. They are not children. We will be waiting to hear William Ruto respecting Gen Zs. They need to apologize. And they need to be compensated. They need to be listened to. They are grown-up people. What a message from a man of God. Many will fear to tell off William Ruto in his face like this. But this man had the courage to speak truth to power. At least this prayer breakfast has served the interest of the people, and we've seen the message, which is very true. Ni wakati wa kuambiana ukweli, mnifanya makosa. Huwezi nyamazisha vijana ambao wanaongea mambo yanayowahusu ya ukweli. Huwezi wanyanyasa tu kwa njia hiyo. Unatarajia kupigia makofi. Haiwezekani. That is the message. Now, I don't know your views on this video, but please let us know in the comment section to continue with this discussion. Thank you so much, and see you in our next video.